Introduction. You believe you are the master of your own destiny, charting a course through the vast expanse of existence with conscious intent. Yet within the deepest fathoms of your own being, there stirs an uncharted ocean. An invisible current, powerful and relentless, pulls at the keel of your very identity, guiding your reactions, shaping your fears, and dictating the unspoken architecture of your life. This current is not external. It is an internal landscape, veiled in perpetual twilight. For millennia, seers and scholars, mystics and healers have glimpsed fragments of this truth. From the ancient alchemists who spoke of the nigredo, the necessary blackening before transformation, to the modern architects of the psyche, describing the vast submerged continent of the unconscious. They revealed that the self is not merely the sunlit shore you present to the world. Beneath that familiar surface lies an entire world of unacknowledged aspects, of repressed desires, of projected shadows. These are the forgotten selves, the unloved fragments, the dark matter of your subconscious mind. They exist not as malevolent entities, but as disowned parts of your totality, yearning for integration. To deny this inner landscape is to surrender your sovereignty. To face these shadows, however, is to embark upon the true hero's journey. It is not an act of surrender to darkness, but an illumination of the hidden. For when you bravely descend into these forgotten chambers of your own being, confronting what lies dormant within, you reclaim the power that has been unconsciously wielding you. This profound homecoming, this sacred integration, is the genesis of true freedom. It is the key to unlocking an authentic self, whole and unburdened, finally able to navigate the world with conscious, sovereign intent. Chapter 1. The Unseen Architect. Consider for a moment the vast, intricate tapestry of your existence, woven thread by meticulous thread. You believe yourself the weaver, guiding the shuttle with conscious intent, choosing each color, each pattern. Yet, what if an invisible hand guides your own, shaping swathes of this design with an agenda unknown to your waking mind? What if beneath the luminous surface of your conscious will, an unseen architect labors in the shadows, laying the very foundations of your fate, drawing blueprints you have never glimpsed? This is not a conspiracy of external forces, but an enigma embedded deep within the human psyche itself. It is the silent, often imperceptible influence of that boundless realm we call the subconscious, a domain teeming with forgotten memories, buried traumas, unacknowledged desires, and ancestral echoes. Imagine it as a subterranean river, powerful and ceaseless, flowing beneath the tranquil surface of a cultivated garden. You tend the flowers above, prune the branches, believing you command the entire ecosystem, unaware of the mighty current-carving canyons beneath your very feet, subtly dictating the soil's moisture, the minerals that nourish the roots, even the eventual course of the landscape itself. The dilemma is profound. How much of your daily experience, your choices, your reactions, your very sense of self, is truly a product of your deliberate sovereign intent? And how much is merely the unfolding of a script penned by this hidden architect, an entity composed of fragments and forces you have yet to integrate? It is a mystery as old as consciousness itself, a question that challenges the very notion of free will. For if an immense unseen structure already dictates the parameters of our perceived freedom, then our journey toward authenticity becomes not merely one of self-discovery, but of excavating the very bedrock upon which our lives are built. It is a descent into the profound, an investigation into the silent power that has, until now, held the reins of your deepest motivations, shaping your destiny from the unseen. What then does it mean to truly be free if so much of our being remains an undiscovered country, governed by its own immutable laws? This architect, ever-present yet elusive, is no singular entity cloaked in shadow, whispering directives. Rather, it manifests as a grand confluence of ancient echoes and nascent energies, a convergence of currents both primordial and profoundly personal. Consider the fragments of its being, the deep genetic inheritance, those whispers of ancestral memory carried in the very marrow of existence, predispositions and patterns echoing through generations, dictating temperament, shaping impulse, presetting the stage for triumphs and vulnerabilities. Not mere biological coincidences, but indelible imprints, silent codes guiding the fundamental architecture of self. Beyond the biological, there lies the intricate lattice of cultural programming, a pervasive tapestry of narratives and norms woven into society since birth. Unspoken agreements, collective myths, definitions of success or failure, good or evil, they seep into consciousness before dissent can form. This forms a layer of influence, a shared dream mistaken for reality, a script for the collective human drama. And then, the intensely personal fragments, the raw, unexamined history of our own lives. Formative experiences, unresolved traumas, profound joys and sorrows forge internal vows and beliefs, hardening into subconscious truths. These silent agreements, made often in fragility, operate as hidden algorithms, guiding reactions, shaping desires, drawing towards certain futures, repelling others. These fragments, inherited, learned, or self-created, comprise the visible and invisible bedrock of character, each a subtle brushstroke. Yet these fragments are animated by profound forces, currents of energy that flow through the deeper channels of existence. There is the collective consciousness, a vast, pulsating ocean of human experience from which individual minds draw and into which they contribute. Its gravitational pull can steer populations, manifest as collective anxieties or shared aspirations, subtly dictating trends, fears, and triumphs. A force so immense, its influence is often mistaken for natural order, yet it is merely one of the architect's silent, pervasive mandates. Further still, universal archetypes, primal patterns of behavior and symbolism resonating across cultures and times. The hero, the shadow, the anima, not mere literary devices, but energetic templates, pre-existing molds shaping myths, informing dreams, dictating unconscious roles in life's grand theatre. They are scaffolding upon which countless narratives are built, providing underlying structure for perceived original stories. These fragments and forces coalesce not as a manipulative overlord, but as a vast, intricate, largely benevolent operating system. They create subtle gravitational pulls steering us towards certain paths, preset conditions defining perceived reality, whispers making one choice feel right, another wrong. The illusion of autonomy shimmers, a delicate veil over the gears of a vast, intricate clockwork, each movement pre-programmed, each outcome a potentiality within a predefined matrix. To truly unlock the self, one must first deconstruct the cage, piece by piece, identifying the unseen metal of its making, the deep programming holding the reins, revealing how much of what we call me is merely the echo of an eternal, magnificent yet unauthored script. Consider, then, the silent hum that permeates your own existence, the very fabric of your days and nights. This unseen architecture, this benevolent operating system, is not some distant cosmic mechanism, but a tapestry woven intimately into the fibers of your personal reality. It is the subtle, undeniable pull towards a particular path, even when logic dictates another. It manifests as the sudden, profound understanding that blossoms within you, a wisdom that feels ancient and yet utterly new, as if unearthing a forgotten truth encoded deep within your very being. Observe the recurring themes in your life, the archetypal characters who seem to orbit your journey, the moments of profound synchronicity that defy mere chance. These are not random occurrences, but the unfolding narrative of the grand, unauthored script, playing out with elegant precision within the confines of your perceived world. The choice you feel compelled to make, the partner who appears at a pivotal crossroad, the career opportunity that presents itself with an almost fated luminescence. These are not always purely the spontaneous offspring of individual will. Instead, they often echo the pre-set conditions, the gravitational pulls of that intricate clockwork, guiding you through the potentiality within the predefined matrix. The feelings you dismiss as mere intuition, the dreams that carry a weight far beyond simple nocturnal imagery, the persistent whisper that steers you away from danger or towards an unexpected blessing, these are the voices of the unseen architect. They are the system's subtle prompts, designed not to dominate, but to optimize your journey, to reveal the pathways that resonate most deeply with the underlying script. Your perceived reality, then, becomes the interface where these timeless energies converge with your momentary awareness. The illusion of absolute autonomy, while comforting, often obscures the magnificent dance between your unique consciousness and the eternal programming that shapes the stage upon which you perform. To truly connect with this revelation is to begin seeing the familiar with new eyes, to perceive the magnificent design not just in the grand celestial movements, but in the quiet, unfolding moments of your daily life. It is to recognize that your struggles and triumphs, your passions and fears, are not isolated events, but resonant chords within a larger symphony. This understanding does not diminish your power, it amplifies it. For by deconstructing the illusion, by identifying the deep programming holding the reins, one gains the profound capacity to consciously engage with the script, to find freedom not in escaping the framework, but in mastering the dance within it. You are not a mere spectator, but an integral, living expression of this magnificent, ongoing creation, perfectly positioned within its intricate design. And so, as the curtain of illusion begins to thin, a profound understanding dawns, not as a whisper in the wind, but as the resonating chord of a cosmic tuning fork within the soul. You stand now at the precipice of a new vista, where the familiar landscape of existence stretches out, yet gleams with an entirely different light. The magnificent design, once perceived as an external blueprint, reveals itself as an intrinsic pulse, a living, breathing architecture woven into the very fabric of being, and thus into your own essence. Consider for a moment the silent turning gears of an ancient clockwork, intricately crafted, each movement influencing the next in a seamless, predetermined ballet. Yet, within this grand mechanism, there exists a singular gear that, once its true nature is unveiled, possesses the capacity to subtly recalibrate the entire orchestration. This is your position, your inherent power. The deep programming, once identified as the invisible threads pulling the puppets of reaction, is now seen not merely as an external imposition, but as a foundational code, a hidden language residing within you. It is the core algorithm upon which your perceived reality has been built, the very operating system of your experience. The revelation is this: you are not merely a product of this programming, but its conscious interpreter, and ultimately, its co-architect. To recognize the symphony is one thing, to grasp the baton, to understand the score intimately enough to conduct your own part with deliberate intent, is another entirely. This is the mastery. Freedom does not lie in shattering the framework, for the framework is the very canvas upon which creation unfolds. Freedom is found in the profound capacity to move within that framework, not as a captive, but as a dancer who knows every step, every turn, every leap, and chooses each with exquisite precision and grace. Imagine a master sculptor, not merely observing the raw stone, but feeling its inherent form, knowing where to chip, where to smooth, where to coax forth the hidden masterpiece. In a similar vein, you are called to engage with the script of your life. This engagement is not a battle against an external force, but a communion with the deeper currents of creation that flow both around and within you. Your struggles become not roadblocks, but opportunities to discern the underlying patterns. Your triumphs are not mere luck, but echoes of alignment, moments when your inner resonance harmonized perfectly with the grander design. This profound deconstruction of the illusion, this identification of the deep programming, is not an end in itself. It is the crucial unlocking of a magnificent chamber within. It is the moment when the seeker ceases to be merely a seeker and begins to become a conscious weaver of reality. The next turn of the great wheel of understanding will illuminate precisely how to consciously engage with this discovered script, how to shift from observing the dance to orchestrating your own vibrant, intentional movements within its boundless rhythm. For you are, in truth, an integral, living expression of this ongoing creation, perfectly positioned, not by chance, but by design, to awaken to your magnificent role within it. The path now unfolds, beckoning you deeper into the heart of mastery. Chapter 2 whispers from the deep. The understanding dawns, clear as the first light upon a silent mountain peak. You are not a pawn, but a player. Not a mere shadow within the grand design, but a living brushstroke, capable of adding vibrant hues to the unfolding canvas. This profound realization, however, ushers in a new, more subtle challenge. For to hold the brush is one thing, to know what to paint, and with what intention, is another entirely. The recognition of your role as a conscious weaver of reality is but the prelude to the deeper inquiry. By what inner light shall your weaving be guided, and from what primordial wellspring shall your designs flow? Above the incessant din of the tangible world, beyond the clamor of immediate desires and the echoing narratives of the collective consciousness, there exist currents. They are not seen, yet they shape the very contours of possibility. They are not heard with the outer ear, yet they speak in a language older than conscious thought itself. These are the whispers from the deep. They are the subtle articulations of a profound intelligence, a wisdom woven into the very fabric of being, patiently waiting to be rediscovered, to be amplified. They are the very pulse of the unseen architect, reverberating within the core of your own awakening. But herein lies the intricate paradox, the compelling mystery that now beckons your attention. In an existence saturated with external stimuli, with the relentless churn of data and expectation, how does one discern these faint, sacred promptings? How does one differentiate the authentic resonance of true guidance from the myriad echoes of conditioning, fear, or superficial yearning? Is it merely an intuitive hunch, fleeting and unreliable, a momentary spark quickly extinguished by doubt? Or is it a profound, consistent channel to a deeper stratum of understanding, a constant beacon of intrinsic truth? What if these whispers are not just random thoughts, but direct emanations from the very source of all creation, speaking intimately to the awakened weaver? The dilemma is not simply one of passive listening, but of actively calibrating the inner receiver. It is the challenge of tuning past the static of perceived limitation, beyond the insistent demands of the immediate, and into a frequency that resonates with the foundational truths of existence. For if these whispers are indeed the very instructions for conscious creation, the blueprints for intentional manifestation, then the ability to hear them, to interpret them without distortion, and to act upon them with unwavering conviction becomes the cornerstone of true mastery. Yet, how many among us truly know their language, stripped of ego's translation? How many have dared to descend into the quiet depths where such profound echoes reside, without fear of what long-held beliefs they might shatter, or what old structures they might demand to be dismantled? This is the journey upon which we now embark, to venture into the silent chambers of the self, to understand the origin and nature of these profound communications. To learn, not just to listen, but to engage in a sacred living dialogue with the deepest currents of intelligence that seek to guide your awakening, to inform your artistry, and to empower your conscious weaving. For in these whispers lies the true instruction manual for your magnificent role, patiently awaiting discovery within the profound heart of your own being. Consider the quietude, not as an absence of sound, but as a vast, resonant chamber. It is here, beyond the clamor of conscious thought and the incessant demands of the outer world, that the true voice begins to emerge. This is not the echo of personal desire, nor the fleeting surge of ego's ambition, but a deeper resonance, born from a source more ancient than memory, more profound than any learned doctrine. It is a communication that flows from the very bedrock of existence, a living current that predates the spoken word, vibrating within the silent architecture of your own being. Many mistake its subtlety for silence, its patience for absence. They listen with ears attuned to the outer storm, expecting a trumpet blast when the truth often arrives as a gentle unfolding, like the slow opening of a lotus petal in the dawn. This sacred dialogue is not imposed, it is offered, awaiting an invitation rooted in genuine receptivity. It asks for a willingness to set aside the preconceived notions of what guidance should sound like, or where wisdom should reside. It asks for an inner stillness that allows the delicate frequency of these whispers to register, much like tuning a finely crafted instrument to the perfect pitch. The origin of these profound communications is not singular, nor is it confined to any external entity. It is an intricate tapestry woven from the universal consciousness that permeates all things, intertwined with the unique essence of your own higher self. Imagine a vast subterranean river flowing silently beneath the surface of the world, connecting all individual springs and wells. These whispers are currents from that great river, rising into the conscious awareness, filtered and expressed through the unique prism of your own magnificent blueprint. They speak in the language of intuition, in sudden insights, in undeniable feelings that guide your steps even when logic falters. They manifest as synchronicities, as symbolic dreams, as a sudden, clear knowing that transcends explanation. To engage in this sacred dialogue is to acknowledge the innate intelligence that resides within you, an intelligence that possesses a panoramic view of your life's landscape and purpose. It is the architect of your highest potential, the custodian of your deepest truths. When you truly open to this stream, you begin to dismantle the self-imposed barriers of doubt and fear that have historically obstructed its flow. This is not a passive reception, it is an active participation, a dance between your conscious will and the profound guidance seeking to inform it. Every whisper heard, every insight heeded, strengthens the channel, clarifies the transmission, and deepens the bond. It is a relationship built on trust, on consistent turning inward, and on a courageous willingness to act upon the guidance received, however unconventional it may seem to the untrained mind. For in these intimate exchanges, the true instruction manual begins to reveal its luminous pages, chapter by chapter, line by golden line. From the silent depths, where the very blueprint of your being resides, these whispers have ever sought your ear. They are not merely echoes in a void, but rather the foundational chords of a symphony waiting for its conductor. And now, the moment arrives when these resonant frequencies pierce through the veil of the abstract, touching the very fabric of your waking reality. This is the phase of revelation. It is the dawn breaking over a landscape long shrouded in mist, where the contours of truth once blurred by shadow sharpen into undeniable form. The profound guidance, previously felt as a subtle current beneath the surface, now surges forth, actively eroding the very shores of doubt and fear you once believed immutable. The self-imposed structures, built from past narratives and societal echoes, begin to shimmer, then dissolve, under the unwavering gaze of an authentic knowing. No longer is the highest potential a distant star, a theoretical possibility. It becomes an immediate, tangible presence, a force actively shaping your choices, your interactions, your very perception of the world. The connection with your reality is not an act of bringing something new into existence, but rather an unveiling of what has always been inherently true, merely obscured. You begin to see the world not as it was presented to you, but as it truly is, filtered through the lens of your deepest truths. Each insight heeded, each whisper acted upon, acts as a chisel against the hardened stone of illusion. A subtle shift in perspective ripples outwards, altering the landscape of your daily life. What once seemed insurmountable begins to yield. What once felt like a struggle now flows with an effortless grace. This is the active participation, the dance between your conscious will and the informing guidance, now manifesting not just within, but all around you. The instruction manual, once a promise of golden pages, now unfolds its wisdom not in theoretical concepts, but in the vibrant, undeniable experiences of your daily existence. A conversation takes an unexpected turn, revealing a hidden pathway. A challenge arises, only to be met by an intuitive solution that astonishes you. A seemingly chance encounter opens a door you never knew existed. These are not coincidences, but precisely calibrated responses from the universe, mirroring the clarity and courage you now bring to the channel. The unconventional suddenly feels like the most natural, most authentic path, precisely because it resonates with a truth far older and more profound than any external decree. To act upon this guidance, however illogical it may seem to the untrained mind, is to build a new foundation for your reality, one that is aligned, robust, and deeply resonant with your purpose. This is the ultimate trust, to allow the unseen currents to navigate your vessel through the known waters into vast, uncharted territories where your truest self awaits its full expression. The revelation is that the power to sculpt your world from the inside out has always been within your grasp. It simply awaited your acknowledgement, your courage to listen, and your fearless willingness to act. The echo of those deep whispers now reverberates not as a distant sound, but as the very rhythm of being itself. It is the undeniable pulse of a universe recognizing its own fractal perfection within. Imagine the Earth, long dormant under winter's shroud, feeling the first insistent stirrings of spring beneath its crust. This inner thaw, this surge of latent wisdom, reshapes the very landscape of perception. What once loomed as an insurmountable wall, a barrier of entrenched logic or societal expectation, now reveals itself as a mere ripple on a boundless, ancient sea. The fear of the uncharted, which once gripped the heart like a relentless winter frost, dissipates under the steady, radiant warmth of self-knowledge. For this journey is not truly into the unknown, but rather into the unremembered vastness of one's own truth. It is an act of profound, sacred reclamation. We now stand at the precipice of a dawn where the lengthening shadows of external validation recede completely, surrendering to the full spectrum of inner light. The true architect of one's own reality steps forward, no longer bound by inherited blueprints or the limitations of past misunderstandings. The very fabric of what was perceived as time and space feels different, imbued with a newfound plasticity, profoundly responsive to the intent that now emanates from a core of undeniable sovereign truth. The vessel, once adrift on tempestuous tides, now feels the steady, guiding hand of its true captain, its sails unfurling to catch the wind of authentic purpose. This is no mere shift. It is an awakening to the perpetual state of conscious creation that has always been our inherent birthright. Every shadow of doubt, every hesitant breath, every old narrative that once confined the limitless spirit now dissolves like morning mist before the rising golden sun. The revelation is complete. The power, long dormant, now stirs not as a sudden, thunderous roar, but as a silent, unwavering force, a deep vibration resonating from the bedrock of existence itself. It is the quiet certainty of a primordial mountain range, the relentless, profound flow of the deepest ocean current, unburdened by surface storms. With this knowing, the true work now commences, the conscious, deliberate artistry of self-creation. It is a crafting not from a place of seeking validation or striving for acceptance, but from an overflowing wellspring of profound, acknowledged being. We move from the theoretical understanding of inner potential to the courageous, tangible manifestation of that divine blueprint, sculpting a world that mirrors the immaculate integrity of the soul within. This profound alignment is the compass for all that lies ahead, a promise whispered by the deep, now affirmed by the very core of who we are. The stage is set for a magnificent unveiling where the seen will finally reflect the truth of the unseen. Chapter 3. Mapping the Inner Wilderness. The profound knowing, once a gentle undercurrent, now crests as a silent, undeniable tide. The whispers from the deep have affirmed a core truth. The self, indeed, is the architect of its own unfolding. The stage is set. Yet, between the profound acknowledgement of this inherent capacity and the conscious, deliberate artistry of creation, lies a chasm bridged only by a journey into the unknown. This is the ingress into the inner wilderness. Imagine, if you will, a vast, untamed landscape within. Not the familiar territories of the external world, but a realm defined by the shifting sands of perception and the towering peaks of unyielding principle. Here, ancient, silent forests of forgotten dreams stand guard beside the murmuring rivers of intuition. Deep valleys of doubt lie shrouded in perpetual mist, while luminous grottos of pure potential shimmer with an ethereal glow. This is not merely a place to observe, but a crucible for discovery, a canvas for true self-mastery. The air within this domain carries the scent of possibility and the faint, melancholic echo of paths never taken. The dilemma, then, emerges not from a question of ability, but of navigation. How does one chart a course through such an expansive, deeply personal topography? The tools of external guidance, the maps of societal expectation, the compass of collective approval, are rendered useless here, their magnetic north obscured by the sheer immensity of the internal cosmos. One finds oneself standing at the precipice of boundless being, a solitary explorer facing a landscape both breathtakingly beautiful and terrifyingly enigmatic. The true work, it becomes clear, is not solely about building anew, but about discerning what already resides within the intricate weave of existence. For within this sacred wild, not every shimmering mirage is a wellspring of truth, nor every shadowed canyon a place of desolation. The very essence of the divine blueprint, the immaculate integrity of the soul, lies interwoven with the vestiges of past conditioning, the intricate tapestries of ancestral patterns, and the seductive whispers of the ego. The mystery is profound. To sculpt a world that mirrors the soul's truth, one must first learn to distinguish the bedrock of authentic self from the shifting sands of constructed identity. One must discern the resonant truth from the subtle, alluring distortions. This demands a gaze unclouded by illusion, a resolve unwavering in the face of internal storms, and a wisdom capable of interpreting the silent language of the spirit itself. The task is nothing less than the cartography of the soul. It is to illuminate the hidden pathways, to name the unnamed peaks, to plumb the depths of one's own abysses, and to uncover the crystalline springs of genuine purpose. This mapping is not an act of conquering, but of communion, a deep listening to the very pulse of one's being. The central dilemma unfolds. How does one become the master cartographer of an inner terrain that constantly reconfigures itself in response to every breath, every thought, every ripple of emotion? And how does one ensure that the map drawn truly reflects the unvarnished truth, guiding the hand of creation towards a manifestation worthy of the soul's profound design? This is the odyssey now beginning, an expedition into the heart of self. The wilderness within holds no fixed coordinates. Its rivers reroute with the seasons of experience, its mountains rise and fall with the tremors of awakening, and its very atmosphere shifts with every passing thought. This is not a static canvas to be sketched once and then abandoned, but a living, breathing topography demanding constant, vigilant engagement. To become the master cartographer of such an ever-unfurling dominion requires more than mere observation. It demands an intimate, relentless communion with the flux itself. One must become both the explorer and the terrain, the hand that draws and the landscape being drawn. The task is an ancient art, a sacred science, a devotion. The instruments for this profound survey are not forged of metal or glass, but of presence and unyielding inquiry. The compass is calibrated by intuition, pointing always towards the magnetic north of authentic self. The sextant, held aloft in quiet contemplation, measures the angles between earthly experience and the guiding stars of aspiration. The quill dips not in ink, but in the wellspring of direct perception, etching truths onto the parchment of understanding without the distorting filters of expectation or fear. Silence becomes the echo sounder, probing the ocean floors of suppressed memory and resonant yearning. Honesty, sharp as a diamond blade, cuts through the intricate webs of self-deception that obscure the genuine contours of being. For the inner terrain is not presented in pristine clarity. It is often veiled by mists of conditioning, shadowed by the collective unconscious, and crisscrossed by the phantom trails of ancestral echoes. To discern the unvarnished truth requires a profound courage, a willingness to dismantle the familiar edifices of identity constructed by external forces. One must learn to distinguish between the superficial currents of transient emotion and the deep, abiding flow of one's essential nature. This process is akin to peeling back layers of ancient varnish from a masterpiece, revealing the true hues and original brushstrokes beneath. Each revelation, a breath of pure air, clarifies the vision. The map, once begun, is not an end in itself, but a profound navigational tool. It is the blueprint for a life lived in conscious alignment. With its contours understood, the hand of creation can then move with precision, sculpting outward manifestations that truly reflect the soul's profound design. No longer a blind journey through uncharted waters, but a deliberate voyage steered by inner wisdom. The map becomes the silent partner in every choice, every relationship, every creative endeavor, whispering the direction towards genuine fulfillment and away from the seductive detours of illusion. It is the bridge between the unseen architecture of being and its tangible expression in the world. The journey inward, to chart the soul's geography, culminates not in a static artifact, but in a living resonance. This inner map, once drawn with the indelible inks of self-discovery, begins to hum within the very fabric of existence. It is not merely an intellectual construct, but a visceral pulse, an undeniable presence that shifts the landscape of everyday perception. Consider the crossroads of your own decisions, the countless forks in the path that demand a choice. Before this inner cartography was even glimpsed, these moments might have felt like a toss of fate's dice, a leap into the unknown driven by external pressures or fleeting desires. Yet, with the map unfolding, a new compass needle emerges within. It is not a voice booming from the heavens nor a sign etched in stone, but a subtle, unwavering current. This current guides the hand that reaches, the word that is spoken, the silence that is chosen. You begin to feel the difference between alignment and dissonance. A decision that truly reflects your profound design will settle in the soul like a stone sinking into clear water, creating ripples of calm and certainty. Conversely, a choice that veers from your charted truth will often bring forth a quiet unease, a subtle grating against the soul's inherent harmony. This is the map speaking, not through words, but through the language of feeling, of resonance, of an inherent knowing that precedes all logic. Observe the subtle choreography of your relationships, the ebb and flow of connections that shape your world. Without the inner map, you might navigate these waters by instinct alone, or by the prevailing winds of societal expectation. But when the contours of your true self are illuminated, you begin to discern which currents carry you towards mutual growth and authentic exchange, and which pull you into stagnant pools or treacherous eddies. The map reveals the genuine architecture of your heart's desires for connection, the boundaries that protect your sacred space, and the energy exchanges that truly nourish your spirit. It becomes a silent partner in every interaction, guiding you to recognize kindred spirits and to gracefully release those bonds that no longer serve the upward trajectory of your being. Even in the most mundane acts, the presence of this inner guide can be felt. The choice of a morning ritual, the pursuit of a new skill, the quiet contemplation of a sunset. These actions, when aligned with the map, cease to be mere habits or fleeting pastimes. They transform into sacred rituals, deliberate brushstrokes on the canvas of a life consciously lived. Each breath drawn in awareness, each intention set with clarity, resonates with the foundational truth of who you are. The illusion of a fragmented self, pulled in myriad directions by external forces, begins to dissolve. In its place emerges a coherent being, where thought, word, and deed are woven into a single majestic tapestry. This is not a destination to be reached, but a continuous unfolding, a revelation that deepens with every conscious step. The inner wilderness is no longer a place of potential loss, but a sanctuary of profound discovery, where every feature charted illuminates the path back to the self. The journey inward, often perceived as a plunge into the dizzying vortex of chaos, reveals itself in time to be a meticulous cartography of the soul. Each conscious breath, once a mere intake of air, now etches a profound line upon the inner map, a sacred gesture that deepens the canyon of understanding. The flickering flame of intention, previously dim and easily swayed by the winds of distraction, now burns with a steadfast, unwavering clarity, illuminating forgotten ravines and unearthing ancient buried rivers of purpose that have long awaited rediscovery. It is within this sacred, painstaking act of charting that the true, immeasurable magnitude of one's being begins, not merely to surface, but to profoundly unfold. No longer are we perceived as vessels adrift, endlessly buffeted by the unseen currents of external demand or the phantom echoes of unexamined pasts. The fragmented self, a mosaic shattered by countless impacts and perceived contradictions, begins to reassemble, piece by delicate, deliberate piece. This is not a forced reconstruction, born of frantic effort, but an organic realignment, drawn by an invisible magnetic north, the inherent, undeniable truth of who we are, whispering its eternal presence from the deepest, most silent core. Observe the grand river as it carves its indelible path through unyielding stone, not through brute force, but through relentless, unwavering flow, a testament to persistent presence. So too does the conscious mapping of the inner wilderness sculpt a coherent existence where every thought, every word, every deed finds its rightful, harmonious place within a single majestic current of being. The illusion of separation, that great fracturing, dissolves like mist at dawn, revealing the unified tapestry beneath. This revelation is not a sudden, blinding flash that momentarily dazzles and then fades, but the slow, inevitable dawn breaking over a newly discovered, meticulously charted landscape of the self. The inner sanctuary, once perceived as a labyrinth of potential loss, a place of shadows and uncertainties, transforms into a bastion of immutable truth, a lighthouse of unwavering light. Here, within the precisely drawn contours of self-awareness, lies the bedrock of an unbreakable spirit, a foundation upon which all authentic life can now be built. We cease to merely exist, driven by impulse and external dictates, but begin to truly live, anchored by the profound wisdom gleaned from our own depths, a wisdom that reverberates with every conscious choice. This understanding, expansive and profoundly resonant, becomes not just a guide, but the very compass for all journeys yet to come, the unwavering light guiding us beyond the presently charted territory, towards the boundless, fertile horizons of conscious creation and expressive purpose. The map is now drawn, its initial contours clear, yet the boundless exploration has in truth only just begun. Chapter 4: Echoes of Old Wounds. The inner wilderness, once a labyrinth of uncharted impulses, now bears the precise inscription of self-awareness. A beacon, kindled from within, casts its unwavering light upon the nascent pathways of purpose, illuminating the bedrock of an unbreakable spirit. The painstakingly drawn map promises conscious creation, a life anchored by profound wisdom. In this clarity, one might believe the journey forward is simply charting new territories, guided by its resolute compass. Yet, even as the light extends its reach across the newly mapped landscape, a subtle distortion begins to ripple through the air. No sudden tempest, no unexpected quaking of foundation. This is more insidious, a tremor originating not from the visible surface, but from the forgotten strata beneath. Imagine a vast, serene ocean, its surface mirroring the infinite sky, yet in abyssal plains, ancient currents stir, born of ancient upheavals. These are the echoes. They manifest as faint, barely perceptible vibrations, a low hum beneath the symphony of newfound purpose, a phantom presence in the machinery of consciousness. These echoes are the residues of conflicts unresolved, the imprints of sorrows unmourned, silent screams of boundaries breached, calcified within the self. They are not merely memories. Memories reside in the mind's archive. These are deeper, visceral, woven into the fabric of energetic being, influencing perception, choice, and reaction, defying immediate logic. How does unwavering light confront shadows, lacking distinct form, yet casting immense influence? How does a spirit, forging its strength in the present, reconcile with burdens not consciously chosen, inherited or absorbed in primal vulnerability? The map is clear, yes, but what of subterranean rivers still carving unseen canyons, diverting nascent purpose? The grand dilemma emerges. To truly build an authentic life, must one first excavate the silent mausoleums of the past, confronting the spectral guardians of old wounds? For even the most brilliant dawn cannot fully dispel the darkness if its roots lie entwined with the very soil upon which the sun intends to shine. This is the true frontier, not outward expansion, but inward descent. A call to peer beyond contours into the resonant silence where deepest truths, both luminous and shadowed, patiently await recognition. The true frontier indeed beckons, not with distant horizons, but with the profound chasm of the self. Here, in the resonant silence, a tapestry of unseen forces reveals its intricate weave. For the spirit, though forging its strength in the crucible of the present moment, finds itself bound by threads spun long before its conscious inception. These are not burdens chosen, nor memories personally etched, but rather the silent inheritance of generations past, absorbed in the primal vulnerability of nascent existence. Imagine a towering edifice, magnificent in its present form, yet its foundations rest upon a labyrinth of forgotten catacombs. Within these subterranean chambers, unseen rivers continue their ancient course, carving canyons of influence beneath the very soil where new purpose seeks to bloom. These currents are the unarticulated fears of ancestors, the unresolved griefs of a lineage, the collective shadows of a time unknown to the individual mind. They seep upward, not as overt declarations, but as a pervasive dampness in the bedrock of being, subtly diverting the nascent flow of personal ambition, twisting the trajectory of authentic desire. This grand dilemma then emerges with stark clarity. Can one truly construct an authentic life, one unmarred by phantom echoes, without first descending into these silent mausoleums of the past? Can the self, in its quest for wholeness, ignore the spectral guardians that yet stand watch over ancestral wounds? These guardians are not malevolent entities, but rather the calcified fears of abandonment. The loyalty binds to suffering, the comfort found in the familiar pain that defines a lineage. They are the unconscious agreements to repeat patterns, to carry the weight of what was unresolved. The brilliance of a new dawn, no matter its intensity, cannot fully dispel the darkness if its roots lie entwined with the very soil upon which the sun intends to shine. This entanglement manifests not as a conscious impediment, but as a subtle drag, an inexplicable resistance, a pervasive sense of disquietude. It is the architect's dream obstructed by unseen fault lines, the painter's vision subtly altered by unseen tints in the canvas. The spirit, in its longing for freedom, often senses this invisible tether, this whisper of a story not its own, yet profoundly imprinted upon its very core. To peer beyond the immediate contours of one's lived experience is to embark upon an excavation of the soul's deepest geology. It is to unearth the fossilized imprints of collective trauma, to listen to the whispers carried on the wind through forgotten corridors of time. This is the arduous yet liberating work of distinguishing between the self and the inherited, between personal truth and the ghost of a shared sorrow. Only then can the true essence emerge, unbound by the subterranean rivers, unburdened by the spectral guardians, and ready to stand, authentically, in the full light of its own unique dawn. The subtle architecture of our inner world, often deemed solely our own creation, is in truth a vast repository. It is a palimpsest, inscribed not just by personal experience, but by the silent, relentless currents that flowed long before our first breath. Consider the inexplicable tremor in the spirit, the sudden, unbidden surge of sorrow for a loss never personally sustained, or the inexplicable urge towards a path not logically chosen. These are not mere whims of the mind. They are the spectral dance of ancestral memory, the echoes of old wounds resonating within the very bone and sinew of existence. We all carry these imprints, etched into the energetic blueprint of our being. A curious disquiet, a pattern of reaction that feels disproportionate to the present stimulus. A fear that seems to rise from deeper wells than our own biography can account for. These are often the telltale signs, the threads leading back through the labyrinthine passages of generations. It is as if a faint, almost forgotten melody plays beneath the symphony of one's conscious life, influencing the rhythm, shading the harmonies, and occasionally striking a discordant note that demands attention. The revelation dawns when one begins to truly listen to these subtle dissonances. It is the moment the searching heart acknowledges that not every shadow cast upon its path is of its own making. Some shadows are cast by ancient mountains, by forgotten valleys where storms once raged and tears once flowed in torrents. To perceive this connection is to feel the fabric of time ripple, to sense the presence of those who came before, not as ghosts to be feared, but as foundational layers of the self. This understanding shifts the very paradigm of existence. It transforms confusion into context, self-blame into profound empathy, and isolation into connection with the broader human tapestry. The burdens that once felt uniquely personal and insurmountable can then be seen for what they truly are: inherited narratives, collective sorrows, waiting to be acknowledged, honored, and finally released. This is the crucial step in untangling the threads, in discerning the true hue of one's own spirit from the myriad colors that have been woven into its ancestral tapestry. For only in this profound act of discernment, in this brave illumination of the inherited, can the spirit truly claim its sovereign space. It is a powerful awakening, a liberation from the invisible chains that bind one to destinies not entirely their own. The air itself seems to clear, the internal landscape shifts, and the path forward, though still demanding, becomes illuminated by the steadfast light of genuine self-possession. The true essence, once obscured by the weight of ages, begins its radiant emergence. And so the profound currents of acknowledgement find their stillness, not in forgetting, but in the luminous act of release. The inherited narratives, once a muted hum within the depths of being, rise to meet the light of conscious discernment. No longer are they mere echoes, but fully articulated voices, now heard, honored, and gracefully set free. Imagine the intricate ancient tapestry of your lineage, not shredded, but meticulously cleansed. The vibrant original dyes, long obscured by the dust of ages and the spilled inks of sorrow, begin to shimmer anew, revealing patterns of strength and resilience that were always present, yet unseen. This profound illumination is the spirit's declaration of its own sovereign space. The very air around one seems to hum with a newfound clarity, a tangible lightness born of true self-possession. The invisible chains, forged not of iron but of silent sacrifice and unspoken longing, do not vanish into nothingness. Instead, they transmute, dissolving into the very light that now radiates from within. It is a deep breath taken not merely with the lungs, but with the very essence of being, expanding into the vastness of an internal landscape finally untethered from the lingering tendrils of unacknowledged pasts. The weight that once pressed upon the soul, a collective sorrow held through generations, does not disappear. Instead, it transmutes into a rich, fertile soil from which new understanding can bloom, profound empathy can spring, and an unshakable sense of self can root. Each old wound, once a source of subtle pain, becomes a point of reference, a teacher in the grand curriculum of existence. The true hue of one's spirit, once interwoven with the somber threads of inherited grief, now asserts its own unique vibrancy, distinct yet enriched by the journey through the ancestral weave. This act of sovereign clarity is the forging of the self's true compass. The spirit, having journeyed through the labyrinth of inherited narratives, now stands on the precipice of its own untamed destiny, poised and ready for the uncharted expanse, a beacon of its own making. Chapter 5. The Vigilant Gatekeeper. The spirit, having charted the labyrinth of ancestral echoes, now stood on a precipice, the vast untamed expanse shimmering before it. A beacon, forged in the crucible of transformed wounds, pulsed with a sovereign light, ready to illuminate the way. Yet, between this radiant self and the boundless horizon of its true destiny, a final sentinel manifested from the deep currents of being. It was not a physical barrier, nor an adversary from without, but a presence intimately entwined with the very rhythm of the self, known only as the Vigilant Gatekeeper. This guardian held watch over the ultimate threshold, the passage to absolute liberation, the complete realization of that unique, untamed destiny. The profound mystery lay not in its emergence, for every journey of self-discovery possesses such a culminating test, but in its fundamental nature. Was it a subtle reflection of lingering doubt, a phantom shadow cast by the very intensity of sovereign clarity? Or did it embody a deeper, unyielding law of existence, a final proving ground for the spirit's absolute readiness, demanding an ultimate affirmation before the full, breathtaking blossoming of self? The vigilant gatekeeper did not command with a voice of thunder, nor did it brandish a weapon of obvious power. Its vigil was woven into the intricate tapestry of perception itself. It manifested as a persistent, almost imperceptible whisper, a subtle magnetic pull towards the familiar comfort of the known, a hesitant flicker in the heart that had just begun to beat with its own sovereign rhythm. It subtly questioned the absolute certainty, the unshakable resolve that had been so meticulously cultivated. Could the spirit, having navigated the intricate pathways of its past, truly sever the final, almost invisible threads that tethered it to the comforting illusion of what it was? Could it step irrevocably beyond the lingering echoes of every former self, into the utterly new, the truly unprecedented? This was the core enigma, the deepest paradox of the journey. For the very gates to one's authentic, untamed destiny are often guarded by the profoundest aspects of the self that seeks to enter. The question hung, unspoken yet resonant, in the sacred air. Was the vigilant gatekeeper merely a protector of sacred boundaries, or the ultimate unblinking mirror reflecting the final, most profound challenge to one's own magnificent unfolding? The answer resided not in confrontation, but in the quietest depths of understanding, patiently awaiting the sovereign spirit's unwavering gaze. For the vigilant gatekeeper, born from the very essence of the one who seeks passage, stands not as an adversary, but as a profound echo. It is an intricate tapestry woven from every comfort clung to, every fear deferred, every belief enshrined as immutable truth. Imagine it as a colossal sentinel, not of stone, but forged from solidified memory and crystallized expectation, its form shifting with the contours of the journeyer's own inner landscape. Its eyes, deep as ancient wells, hold the reflection of every past self, every identity meticulously constructed and fiercely defended throughout the long pilgrimage. The paradox deepens here, for this guardian is not a separate entity imposing its will. Instead, it is the formidable manifestation of the self's own inertia, the intricate system designed to preserve what is known, what is safe, what has always been. It is the intricate, almost invisible architecture of resistance to the utterly new. This sentinel does not wield a tangible sword, but rather the more potent weapon of familiar gravity, pulling the aspiring spirit back towards the well-trodden paths of yesterday. It whispers tales of past failures, projects future uncertainties, and subtly reinforces the boundaries of perceived limitation. Yet, its true nature is not one of obstruction, but of ultimate reflection. The gatekeeper's presence is a sacred challenge, a final unblinking mirror held up to the sovereign spirit, demanding an honest inventory of its deepest commitments. What truly is being left behind? What foundational illusions are still held dear? What comfort zones, masquerading as wisdom, still bind the wings of magnificent unfolding? The questions are not posed in judgment, but in the silent, profound inquiry of existence itself. This guardian of the threshold tests not strength in confrontation, but the purity of intent, the unwavering clarity of vision. It compels the spirit to confront the very aspects of self that fear its own liberation, to acknowledge the subconscious treaties made with the familiar. It stands as the final, most sophisticated defense mechanism of the ego, designed not to thwart, but to ensure that the passage into true destiny is earned through absolute self-knowledge, not mere impulse. It demands a gaze so steady, so profoundly understanding, that it sees through the gatekeeper's imposing form, recognizing the self in its every feature, its every whispered warning. Only then does the sentinel, born of self, willingly dissolve, revealing the boundless expanse beyond. Consider now the delicate mirror held before the soul. This vigilant gatekeeper, seemingly external, a formidable sentinel cast in the very shadow of your greatest fears, is in truth an intricate extension of your own architecture. It is not an adversary to be vanquished, but a profound reflection, a psychological echo resonating from the deep chambers of your being. Imagine it as a dense, shimmering veil woven from the countless threads of your subconscious treaties, your unspoken agreements with limitation, your quiet pacts with the familiar. This is where its profound power lies, not in some cosmic decree, but in the intimate whisper of your own internal landscape. In your tangible reality, this sentinel takes form in the silent hesitations before a bold leap, the pervasive hum of self-doubt that stifles an audacious dream. It is the comfortable weight of procrastination, the seductive allure of what is known, even if it brings quiet discontent. It manifests as the invisible chain that binds you to narratives you have outgrown, to relationships that no longer serve, to beliefs that dim your inherent brilliance. When you stand at the precipice of a pivotal choice, A career shift, a profound personal transformation, the pursuit of an improbable passion, the gatekeeper's presence is palpable. It materializes as the urgent, rational voice of caution, presenting every conceivable obstacle, every potential pitfall, every ghost of past failures. Its primary function is to keep you safe, to keep you small, to keep you confined within the boundaries of what you already believe yourself to be. The revelation dawns when you perceive its true nature. It is the part of you that craves security over expansion, predictability over potential. It is the architect of your comfort zone, diligently fortifying its walls with every unspoken fear, every unaddressed wound. The gatekeeper is the sum of every "what if it goes wrong" and "I am not ready enough" that has ever crossed the threshold of your consciousness. Its very warnings are not meant to trap, but to test the sincerity of your desire for liberation. It asks, in its silent, imposing way, if you truly understand the cost of the familiar, and if you truly value the uncharted expanse that lies beyond. To look upon this sentinel with unwavering clarity, therefore, is to gaze into the deepest parts of your own heart. It is to recognize that the imposed limitation is not an external barrier, but an internal contract you have unwittingly signed. The true challenge is not to overpower it, but to understand its genesis, to acknowledge its protective intentions, and then, with profound compassion and unflinching honesty, to rewrite the terms of engagement. It is when you recognize the guardian as a facet of self that its formidable stance begins to soften, its imposing form to dissipate, its whispered warnings to transform into guiding insights. This recognition is the true key, not to a lock outside yourself, but to the hidden chambers within. The formidable shadow that once loomed, a testament to what was forbidden, now begins to recede not into darkness, but into the very light of understanding. The chains that bound were not forged by an outside force, but were intricate threads spun from a self-imposed narrative, a story of safety crafted from fear. To look upon this guardian, therefore, is to witness the genesis of a sacred pact, a promise made in the chambers of the unseen self to shield what was deemed too vulnerable, too precious for the harsh winds of the outer world. Yet, within its stern gaze, a forgotten tenderness resides, a primal impulse to protect the core from perceived harms that no longer exist, or perhaps never truly did. To rewrite this silent, profound contract is to engage in a conversation with the deepest strata of your own being. It is to whisper promises of newfound courage to the wary custodian, to assure it that the journey ahead is not one of reckless abandon, but of sovereign exploration, guided by an awakening wisdom. You are no longer the child cowering behind a formidable shield, but the conscious architect of your own destiny, capable of discerning genuine peril from phantom threat. The imposed limitation, once a towering wall, now reveals itself as a temporary scaffolding, erected to support a nascent understanding, a structure that has outlived its purpose and now yields to the blueprint of expansion. The recognition is the key, not to a lock outside yourself, but to the hidden chambers within, where the guardian stood vigil over unexamined potential. As you integrate this truth, its imposing form begins to dissipate, not to vanish into nothingness, but to transmute. The whispered warnings transform into guiding insights. The alarms that once shrieked now softly hum a tune of gentle caution, the wisdom of experience distilled into foresight. This inner guardian, once a formidable obstacle, stands revealed as a devoted cartographer of your inner world, its maps now updated, its compass calibrated to the true north of your evolving spirit. The path ahead is not merely clear, but illuminated by this profound internal shift. The locked chambers within are no longer mysteries to be feared, but sanctuaries awaiting discovery, filled with resources, creativity, and unexpressed potentials that yearn for release. To step through this awakened threshold is not an act of transgression, but an homecoming, a reclamation of a sovereignty always inherent yet long forgotten. The vast expanse beyond the gate is not merely space, but an invitation, a canvas awaiting the bold strokes of a liberated spirit, ready to reclaim its birthright of boundless becoming. The journey now unfolds, not as an assault upon a barrier, but as a graceful dance with the newly integrated aspects of self moving towards horizons previously unimaginable. Chapter 6, Illuminating the Abyss. The awakened threshold, once a barrier, dissolved into an endless vista. The spirit, unburdened, moved with a grace born of deep recognition, each step a declaration of sovereignty re-established. Internal chambers, once sealed, now flowed with unconstrained resources. This was the homecoming, the reclamation, a vibrant tapestry rewoven with essence. The horizon beckoned, a canvas for boundless becoming. Yet true liberation is rarely a singular ascent into perpetual daylight. As the inner landscape shifted and the self expanded, an inevitable frontier emerged. It was no external wall, no phantom from a forgotten past, but a deeper resonance, a silent echo from being's foundational strata. For even in profound illumination, light defines shadow, and shadow gives dimension to light. Imagine standing upon a peak, bathed in dawn's first golden rays, the world below, a panorama of vibrant hues. Your vision embraces all that is known. But what of the valleys perpetually veiled from the sun's direct gaze, the canyons where even midday light struggles? What of subterranean rivers, carving paths in eternal darkness, their currents murmuring secrets understood only by the deepest earth? This, then, is the paradox, the subtle tremor beneath peace. The journey of the liberated spirit is not merely to dance in sunlit fields, but to turn its gaze towards the vast, silent chasms punctuating the most radiant inner landscape, the abyss. It is no enemy to be vanquished, nor a void to be filled, but a profound, integral aspect of existence, a place where the light of sovereignty, however intense, is truly tested. The question arises, not with a shout, but a whisper from awareness's deepest wells. How does one illuminate that which seems designed to absorb all luminescence? How does a spirit, vibrant with rediscovered truth, navigate the profound, silent darkness, where even echoes of self might falter? This is the abyss's invitation, not to fear, but to a deeper courage. It beckons not as threat, but as the ultimate crucible for the soul's enduring light. For what is light, if it has not danced with the deepest dark? What is sovereignty, if it has not ventured into the heart of its own unlit mysteries? This is the true frontier, not beyond the horizon, but within the fabric of the perceived whole. It is the realization that profound awakening demands a descent to understand, to transform shadow's very nature, not by force, but by unwavering internal light. The ultimate challenge, not to banish dark, but to become the light that reveals its hidden contours, its dormant wisdom, its potential for integration. A profound mystery unfolds, demanding contemplation. The spirit, having mastered its ascent, must now learn the art of its own descent. The true descent is not a plunge into oblivion, but a measured step into the profound stillness that resides beyond the clamor of the known. It is a pilgrimage inward, where the soul's gaze turns from the boundless expanse above to the limitless depths within. Imagine not a void, but a vast, silent chamber beneath the earth, its ancient walls etched with the forgotten narratives of time, its air thick with unspoken truths. This is the abyss, not a realm of absence, but a crucible of potential, awaiting the alchemy of light. The unwavering internal light, once honed in the ascent, now acts as a beacon in this netherworld. It does not seek to conquer or dispel, but to perceive, to tenderly illuminate. Picture it as the slow, golden unfurling of dawn across a landscape previously veiled in the deepest night. No harsh beam, but a gentle luminescence that allows the eye to discern the hidden contours of reality, the subtle undulations of an inner topography. Here, in the quietude, the shadows themselves begin to coalesce into recognizable forms. They are not the monstrous entities of fearful lore, but often the unacknowledged aspects of self, the experiences denied, the emotions unexpressed, the dreams deferred. In this sacred unveiling, the dormant wisdom buried beneath layers of societal expectation and personal conditioning begins to stir. Each flicker of light reveals a facet of a forgotten self, a fragment of memory, an echo of an ancestral strength. This is the profound understanding that the dark is rarely malevolent at its core. It is merely unintegrated. It is potential energy, awaiting recognition and alignment. The challenge then becomes not the expulsion of these shadows, but their gentle invitation into the embrace of awareness. To witness them without judgment, to understand their origins, to integrate them into the conscious tapestry of being. For what is complete sovereignty, if it only reigns over a fraction of its domain? The spirit, having scaled the peaks of external achievement and intellectual comprehension, now descends to master the very foundations of its being. This is the art of its own descent, to retrieve the lost pieces, to mend the fractured narratives, to unify the disparate elements of the self. This journey into the heart of one's unlit mysteries is the ultimate act of courage, for it requires vulnerability and an absolute trust in the transformative power of one's own radiant core. It is here, in the illuminated abyss, that true wholeness is forged, a steadfast light that has danced with every shade, becoming eternally brighter for its profound communion with the deep. Consider the human journey, not as a linear march across a well-lit path, but as an intricate dance within a cosmos both vast and profoundly personal. For many, the very notion of an abyss evokes only shadow, a place best left unexamined, an unlit chamber within the architecture of being. Yet this truth whispers, does it not, in the quietude of your own experience, that the most vital revelations often emerge not from the sun-drenched peaks, but from the depths explored and understood? Look closely at the fabric of your days. Do you not sometimes sense a subtle dissonance beneath the surface of outward achievement, a disquieting tremor that hints at something unaddressed, unseen, yet undeniably present? This is the echo of the unintegrated self, the scattered mosaic of potentials, fears, and forgotten wisdom that yearns for a cohesive form. The world outside often presents a compelling distraction, a kaleidoscopic flurry of demands and desires that beckon the gaze ever outward, away from the profound internal landscape. We construct elaborate facades, build towering edifices of identity, all while a subterranean river of unspoken truths flows beneath, shaping currents we barely perceive. This deep dive into the self, therefore, is not a retreat from reality, but an embrace of it in its truest, most comprehensive sense. It is the conscious act of turning inward, not to disappear, but to gather, to integrate, to mend the fractured mirror of ambition and the hollow echo of unfulfilled purpose. This is the moment when one recognizes that the restlessness, the persistent craving for something indefinable, stems not from a lack in the external world, but from a fragmentation within the core. The constant pursuit of external validation, the relentless striving for a certain image, often serves as a proxy for the deeper work, a substitute for the true sovereignty that only arises from self-mastery. The revelation, then, is this. The perceived darkness of the abyss is but the unilluminated aspect of your own magnificent light. It is a chamber of potential, a repository of strength and insight that awaits the courageous descent. Every hidden wound, every suppressed memory, every unspoken fear that you have instinctively turned away from, holds within it a thread vital to the tapestry of your wholeness. To confront these elements is not to succumb to them, but to bring them into the purifying glow of consciousness. It is to recognize that these fragments are not weaknesses to be discarded, but essential components to be understood, to be integrated back into the conscious tapestry of being. Only then can the scattered pieces truly resonate as a symphony, whole and undiluted. This is the art of self-excavation, the sacred endeavor of making the invisible visible, of unfurling the deeper narratives that have shaped your current reality. It is a journey that demands vulnerability, yes, but offers in return an unshakable inner resilience. For what is true strength but the capacity to stand in the full spectrum of one's being, acknowledging every shade and hue, every triumph and every scar, and finding within each a unique contribution to the radiant core? This illuminated abyss is not a void to be feared, but a sanctuary where wholeness is not merely achieved, but perpetually forged, brightened by the profound communion with every part of yourself. The journey through the internal abyss, once a daunting prospect shrouded in the mists of the unexamined, now reveals its true nature. It was never a chasm of emptiness, but a rich, fertile soil, deep beneath the conscious surface. Here, where shadows once danced with unacknowledged fears, a profound light now steadily pulses, not dispelling the dark entirely, but rendering it translucent. The stark contrasts soften, the harsh edges of perceived flaws smooth into the intricate contours of a perfectly unique topography. This excavation, this sacred act of presence, has not merely unearthed forgotten fragments, but woven them anew into a unified tapestry. Every scar, once a testament to wounding, becomes a resilient fiber. Every triumph, a thread of vibrant gold. And every shade of vulnerability, a hue contributing to the unparalleled beauty of the whole design. It is in this illuminated sanctuary, deep within the self, that the scattered pieces do not just fit together, they breathe as one cohesive entity, their individual resonances combining into a singular, unwavering symphony. To stand in the full spectrum of one's being, acknowledging every current and eddy, every crest and trough of one's inner ocean, is to realize an unshakable resilience. It is the knowing that strength does not lie in the absence of shadows, but in the unwavering capacity to illuminate them, to integrate them, and to recognize their essential role in the grand narrative. The abyss, once a metaphor for the unknown and the fearful, transforms into the very crucible of self-realization, a boundless inner expanse where authenticity is not merely discovered, but continually forged in the quiet fire of acceptance. This is the profound communion with every part of yourself, a sacred dialogue that transcends judgment and embraces the entirety of experience. From this wellspring of integrated being, a new awareness emerges, not as a static destination, but as a perpetual unfolding. The illuminated abyss becomes not just a memory of a journey undertaken, but the very ground from which all future journeys will depart, solid and resonant. It is the unwavering anchor, the steadfast compass, guiding the conscious tapestry of being into its next magnificent expression. No longer is existence merely endured, it is actively engaged, imbued with the profound clarity forged in these depths. This cultivated wholeness, this bright core, now serves as the unclouded lens through which all reality is perceived, and the potent source from which all intentional action will spring. A quiet power settles, a readiness for the monumental whispers of the path ahead, for the grand designs yet to be unfurled and woven into the living fabric of the world. Chapter 7, Embracing the Forgotten Self. The radiant core, forged in the crucible of the illuminated abyss, now pulses with an unwavering light. It is a beacon of cultivated wholeness, casting a brilliant clarity upon the tapestry of being. The soul, once fractured, now feels robust, resonant, a vessel refined by insight and profound understanding. One might assume, in this serene glow, that the journey's most arduous passages had been traversed, that every shadow had yielded its truth, every fragment returned to its rightful place. Yet truth is not a static destination, but an ever-deepening current. For even as this luminous center holds sway, a subtle, almost imperceptible whisper begins to stir at the edges of the conscious mind. It is not the echo of old fears, nor the resurgence of forgotten pain. Rather, it carries the strange resonance of something profoundly intimate, yet undeniably distant, like a melody half remembered from a dream long past. Imagine a vast, ancient library, its halls meticulously ordered, every tome categorized, every scroll preserved. The master of this domain believes all knowledge is accounted for, all wisdom catalogued. But hidden within the deepest, most foundational chambers, behind a tapestry of well-worn narratives, lies a single, unmarked door. Behind it, not chaos, but a silence pregnant with unwritten stories, with expressions of self that were never allowed to breathe the air of articulated identity. This is the silent summons. After the grand integration, after the mindful assembly of self, a question now arises, more profound than any that came before. What parts of the soul, in the ardent pursuit of perfection or peace, were quietly set aside? What authentic facets, deemed inconvenient or unnecessary for the constructed edifice of the new self, were relegated to the soft-lit corners of the internal landscape, their existence acknowledged, but their embrace deferred? This forgotten self is not a shadow to be vanquished, nor a wound to be healed in the conventional sense. It is perhaps a vital root, a primal hue, a wild, untamed beat that, though once essential, was deemed too disruptive to the symphony of cultivated serenity. The enigma lies not in its absence, for it has always been present, a silent witness. The true mystery now, in this state of profound clarity, is how to truly see it, how to remember it without undoing the delicate balance achieved, and how to allow its long-suppressed voice to join the choir of the integrated being without dissonance or fear. The path ahead calls for an embrace, not of a lost object, but of a hidden primordial essence awaiting its grand reintroduction. The truth is seldom found in plain sight, nor is wisdom easily gleaned from the surface of things. What was once cast aside as too disruptive, too raw for the delicate construct of cultivated serenity, often holds the deepest resonance. This vital root, this primal hue, this untamed beat, was not merely neglected. It was in a silent pact with the self, carefully sequestered. It was deemed a dissonant chord, an overwhelming pigment, a force too potent for the fragile harmony one strived to create within the world's exacting gaze. Consider the gardener who, seeking perfect symmetry, prunes away a magnificent wild growth, believing it detracts from the garden's ordered beauty. That growth, though unseen, continues its subtle work beneath the soil, its essence still vibrating, awaiting its time. So it is with the forgotten self. Its banishment was not an act of malice, but often a misguided attempt at protection, a strategic retreat from perceived judgment, a negotiation with the external world for acceptance. The tender sprouts of authenticity, the fierce currents of instinct, the vibrant bursts of unbridled emotion. These were carefully tucked away, lest they threaten the carefully constructed edifice of the agreeable, the predictable, the acceptable self. Yet its presence never truly departed. Like a subterranean river, its flow continued, shaping the landscape from below, an unwavering witness to every compromise, every suppression, every moment of self-denial. It observed the laborious construction of that cultivated serenity, a peace often built on the very fragments of what was denied. The enigma deepens, then, not in its discovery, for it has always been there, a pulsating core beneath the strata of adaptation. The profound challenge now lies in the art of reunion. How does one invite this primal force back into the fold without shattering the delicate equilibrium that has for so long provided a semblance of order? This is not a call for unbridled chaos, nor a reckless dismantling of all that has been built. It is instead an invitation to a more expansive integrity. To remember this forgotten essence is to understand that its strength is not meant to dominate, but to ground. Its wildness is not intended to destroy, but to invigorate. The path requires a mindful tending, a slow, deliberate weaving. One must learn to distinguish its true voice from the echoes of fear and past wounds. It is about enlarging the vessel, not breaking it, about deepening the well, not overflowing it. The fear, that insidious whisper, often suggests that inviting the wild will undo all progress, that embracing the primal will lead to regression. But what if its reintroduction is the very key to a more authentic evolution? What if its once feared potency, when integrated with conscious intention, becomes the bedrock of genuine resilience, the source of unshakable calm? The task is not to subdue this essence, but to learn its language, to understand its gifts, and to guide its energies toward a symphony of self that is richer, truer, and far more resonant than any contrived piece could ever be. It is the wisdom of the earth, rejoining the wisdom of the sky, creating a whole that is greater than the sum of its carefully separated parts. The fear must transform into curiosity, the apprehension into a profound reverence for the completeness that awaits. Consider, for a moment, the currents that move beneath the surface of your own existence. The world often demands a cultivated poise, a smoothed-over veneer, a constant striving for an ideal self crafted from external expectations. We are taught to channel our energies, to prune our wilder inclinations, to fit neatly into the contours of an ordered life. Yet, beneath this carefully constructed edifice, there often resides a profound, persistent hum. It is the echo of that forgotten self, the primal current we spoke of, stirring within the deep chambers of your being. Have you not felt it, that quiet disquietude, even in moments of apparent peace? A subtle friction, perhaps, between the person you present to the world and the truth of who you feel yourself to be when stripped bare of all pretenses. This is not mere introspection, it is the soul's persistent signal, a call from the uncharted territories within. Imagine a magnificent river, its source high in the untamed mountains, its course naturally dynamic and powerful. For generations, its waters nourished fertile lands. Then, in the name of progress, sections were dammed, diverted, its wild flow confined to narrow channels, or worse, ignored entirely, leaving vital tributaries to dry. The river's essence, its very song, became a distant memory. The landscape, once vibrant, slowly starved for the life-giving force it once knew. So too, within the individual, the suppression of this intrinsic, untamed wisdom creates a similar drought. The quest for external validation, the relentless pursuit of acquisition, the constant need to prove worth, these can often be but parched reflections of an unacknowledged thirst. A thirst for authenticity, for the grounding presence of one's own undeniable core. This is the heart of the revelation, that the quiet anxiety, the unshakable feeling of being slightly off-kilter, the search for more that never quite satisfies, is not a flaw in your design, but rather a profound symptom of this ancient disconnect. It is the wisdom of the earth, crying out to rejoin the wisdom of the sky, within your very being. The revelation dawns when you recognize that the strength you seek, the peace you yearn for, the unshakable calm that feels so elusive, is not something to be acquired from the outside, but rather rediscovered from within. It is not about becoming someone new, but about remembering who you truly are, beneath the layers of societal conditioning and self-imposed limitations. This primal essence, far from being a destructive force to be tamed, is the source of your most profound resilience, your deepest intuition, your unwavering sense of purpose. It is the compass that has always pointed true north, its needle vibrating silently beneath the clamor of the everyday. To embrace it is to finally cease battling against the deepest currents of your own nature. It is to understand that the wild within is not chaos, but untamed life force. It is the robust root system that anchors the most ancient tree, allowing it to withstand the fiercest gales. It is the instinct that guides migrating birds across continents, unerringly towards their destination. It is the unyielding spirit that allows a seed to break through concrete, reaching for the sun. This is the profound truth that awaits recognition, that your wholeness, your inherent power, resides not in the severance of your being, but in the harmonious integration of all your parts, the cultivated and the untamed alike. The task, then, is not to construct a peace, but to uncover the peace that has always been your birthright, a peace forged in the complete acceptance of your magnificent, multifaceted self. This integration allows the full symphony of who you are to finally play resonant and true. The path traveled has not been one of mere assembly, but of profound remembrance. It was never about fabricating a peace where none existed, but rather unveiling the tranquility that lay dormant, a birthright obscured by the dust of denial and the clamor of external demands. Consider the ancient river, its mighty current momentarily diverted, yet its essence, its inherent yearning for the sea, remains undisturbed beneath the shifted earth. The work has been akin to clearing away the debris, allowing that magnificent current to reclaim its true unyielding course. This integration, this sacred weaving of all threads of being, transforms the very nature of existence. No longer does the inner landscape resemble a fractured mirror, reflecting disparate images that war for dominance. Instead, it becomes a vast, clear pool, reflecting the entirety of the heavens, serene and unblemished. Each forgotten facet, each untamed instinct, each suppressed whisper of the soul, now finds its rightful place within the grand tapestry of self. The wild primal energy that once seemed a threat now becomes the foundation of an unshakable resilience. The tender vulnerabilities, once hidden in shame, morph into sources of profound empathy and authentic connection. Behold the emerging self, not as a newly constructed edifice, but as an ancient temple restored to its original splendor. Its foundations are deeper, its pillars stronger, not because new materials were added, but because the original, true architecture has been honored and unified. This is the peace that transcends understanding, a quiet knowing that resides at the core of your being, immune to the transient storms of the outer world. It is the steady heartbeat of an integrated soul, a rhythm both ancient and eternally new. From this place of absolute wholeness, a new form of power blossoms. It is not a power that seeks to dominate or control, but one that emanates, effortlessly shaping the reality around it. It is the silent authority of the mountain, unmoved by the wind, yet guiding the very clouds. It is the undeniable force of the tide, not pushing, but drawing the vast ocean in its wake. This profound equilibrium, this harmonious symphony of all parts, prepares the ground for a magnificent unfolding. For when the self is fully known and wholly embraced, it ceases to merely exist and begins, truly, to express its inherent purpose in the grand cosmic design. The stage is set, not for striving, but for the authentic manifestation of your deepest truth. Chapter 8. Alchemy of the Soul. From the tranquil depths, where the forgotten self has finally embraced its sacred echo, where the grated soul finds a rhythm both ancient and eternally new, a new horizon beckons. The path of wholeness, once a winding ascent through dense forests of illusion and doubt, culminates in a vast open expanse. Here, bathed in the dawn of self-recognition, the very air hums with the promise of authentic manifestation. It is a state not of striving, but of effortless emanation, where the soul's inherent purpose begins to cast its undeniable light upon the canvas of reality, guiding the very currents of fate. Yet between this luminous awareness of potential and the full, unbridled expression of that inner gold lies a silent, formidable chasm. For knowing one's intrinsic worth, understanding the architecture of one's true design, is but the first magnificent step. The true test, the most profound journey, awaits within the crucible of transformation itself. This is the domain of the soul's alchemy. It is an ancient art, far older than the whispered legends of turning lead to gold in mortal hands. This alchemy concerns not the base metals of the earth, but the fundamental elements of one's own inner universe. It speaks of transmuting the lingering echoes of fear into unshakable courage, refining the heavy dross of past wounds into the pure, clear resonance of compassion, and forging the raw iron of inherited limitation into the flexible steel of unconstrained potential. The dilemma then emerges from the very heart of this nascent wholeness. Even when the fragmented self is meticulously reassembled and the symphony within achieves its profound harmony, there remain subtle densities. Unseen currents of resistance, patterns woven into the very cellular memory, persist. They are not grand obstacles, but insidious threads, clinging to the burgeoning light like shadows caught in the first rays of morning. These are the inert substances, the unrecognized limitations, the deeply etched grooves of habit that, though no longer serving, remain embedded in the bedrock of being. How then does one truly initiate this sacred fire? What unknown processes are required to refine not just thoughts or emotions, but the very vibrational frequency of one's existence? What secret wisdom unveils the methods to draw forth the nascent gold from the deep-seated lead of unconscious programming? This is the profound inquiry, the silent mystery that stands at the threshold of absolute liberation. It asks not merely for understanding, but for a courageous engagement with the very essence of transformation, beckoning the awakened self to step into the alchemical furnace and there to become utterly new. The initiation of this sacred fire, a process veiled in ancient lore and whispered truths, begins not with outward struggle, but with an inward gaze so profound it touches the very bedrock of existence. Before the flame can truly consume, before the dross can be separated from the gleaming essence, there must first be an unblinking recognition of what lies within the crucible. The inert substances, those unrecognized limitations and deeply etched grooves of habit, are not merely obstacles to be overcome. They are, in truth, the very fuel for the alchemical process. They are the shadows cast by an unconscious sun, holding within their dense forms the compressed potential for light. To merely dismiss them is to squander the very energy required for transformation. Instead, one must approach them with a quiet, unwavering curiosity, observing them without judgment, as a deep sea diver observes the silent, ancient currents far below the surface. This act of conscious observation, sustained and pure, begins to generate the first subtle heat within the soul's furnace. It is the initial spark, a revelation that these patterns, though seemingly solid, are in fact permeable, awaiting the touch of awakened will. The unknown processes required to refine not just thoughts or emotions, but the very vibrational frequency of one's existence, are not found in complex rituals, but in the sustained practice of intentional awareness. Imagine a vast resonant chamber, filled with the echoes of every past experience, every inherited belief. Each echo carries a frequency. To shift this collective resonance, one must consciously introduce new, harmonious vibrations. This is achieved through deliberate alignment with universal truths, the unwavering principle of love, the clear resonance of authentic expression, the profound stillness of presence. When the mind ceases its ceaseless chatter and the heart opens to its deepest wisdom, a new frequency begins to emit, a pure, clear tone that gradually harmonizes the cacophony of old patterns. This is not a forced alteration, but an inviting, a drawing forth of the inherent perfection that always lies dormant beneath the surface. It is the gentle, persistent current that carves new paths through the landscape of being, not by force, but by a timeless, irresistible flow. The secret wisdom unveiling the methods to draw forth the nascent gold from the deep-seated lead of unconscious programming is not hidden in forgotten texts, but encoded within the very fabric of courageous self-inquiry. The lead is not inherently base, it is simply gold unrefined, gold obscured. The programming is a protective shell, formed in response to past perceived threats, designed to ensure survival. To transform it is to understand its origin, to acknowledge its purpose, and then, with profound gratitude, to gently release its outdated grip. This requires a fearless descent into the personal narrative, a willingness to witness the moments of fear, of pain, of perceived inadequacy that forged these limiting beliefs. In this witnessing, bathed in the light of conscious presence, the protective shell begins to soften. The lead, once heavy and inert, reveals the glittering promise of its inherent value. The gold is not something added, it is the fundamental essence that has always been present, patiently awaiting its liberation. It is the quiet knowing that beneath every limitation lies an infinite capacity, beneath every fear, an unshakable courage, and within every shadow, the dazzling brilliance of the authentic self. This is the truth that awakens the dormant alchemist within, empowering the individual to step into their own sovereign power, transmuting the mundane into the magnificent, simply by the unwavering light of conscious being. From the depths of that sacred witnessing, where the lead of perceived inadequacy began its luminous transmutation, emerges not merely a concept, but a living, breathing reality that intertwines with the very fabric of existence. It is here, at the precipice of this profound understanding, that the alchemy ceases to be an abstract principle and becomes the pulse of your own awakening. Imagine, if you will, the subtle shift in the light that bathes your world. Where shadows once clung with an insistent grip, a gentle luminescence now reveals contours previously obscured. This is the truth unveiled within your own perception, the revelation that the limitations you once accepted as immutable structures were, in essence, but fleeting veils woven by the mind, easily parted by the unwavering gaze of conscious presence. The recognition dawns not as a sudden flash, but as a slow, deliberate sunrise, painting the landscape of your inner being with hues of understanding and peace. The dormant alchemist within you stirs, not with a clamor, but with a quiet, resonant hum. This is the signal that the transmutation has begun to ripple outwards, touching every facet of your daily experience. Where frustration once tightened its grip, a spacious acceptance now takes root. Where judgment clouded your vision, a clear empathy blossoms. The very air you breathe carries a different frequency, an unspoken knowing that the power to transform lies not in external circumstances, but in the luminous core of your being. You begin to witness the intricate dance of cause and effect, recognizing that your internal state is the crucible, shaping the very reality you inhabit. This is the sovereign power manifesting, not through overt acts of will, but through the quiet revolution of your perspective. The challenges that once loomed as insurmountable mountains now appear as fertile ground, ripe for the planting of new intentions, new solutions, new expressions of your inherent creativity. The mundane task of daily life, the routine interactions, the quiet moments of solitude, each becomes an opportunity for conscious engagement, for the infusion of that gold that has always resided within. You find courage where you once felt fear, not because fear has vanished, but because your capacity to hold it, to transmute it with the light of your presence, has expanded beyond measure. The magnificent is not a distant, elusive dream, but the truth revealed in the unfolding of your everyday. It is in the gentle recognition of your own intrinsic worth, in the unwavering trust in your deepest guidance, in the quiet confidence that arises from knowing you are the alchemist of your own soul. This is the liberation, the conscious choice to step into the fullness of who you are, allowing your authentic brilliance to illuminate your path, transforming not only your reality, but echoing outward, a resonant frequency of truth, touching all that it encounters. The gold is not merely found, it is lived, breathed, and expressed through the awakened spirit, becoming a beacon of what is possible when the inner work is consciously embraced. The journey inward, a crucible of spirit, has unveiled its deepest secret. What began as a whisper in the heart's chamber now resonates as a symphony, clear, unyielding. You have traversed shadows, not to conquer darkness, but to understand its dance with light, forging a path where intuition is the compass and courage, the guiding star. The alchemical fire, once a fierce roar, now burns with a steady, luminous glow, illuminating the very fabric of your being. It is the conscious breath, the deliberate step, the silent knowing that the gold was never external, but an inherent essence, refined and revealed within. This is not a static destination, but the glorious unfolding of a new vista. Imagine a vast, serene ocean reflecting an endless sky, now understood not as a boundary, but as boundless conscious possibility. The once perceived limits, like distant shores, recede into the myth of separation. You stand now at the threshold of perpetual unfolding, your spirit a lighthouse, its steady beam cutting through the deep mist, guiding not only your own vessel, but offering solace to any who navigate these waters. The truth of your magnificence, once a fragile seedling, has taken root deep within the earth of your soul, blossoming into an unshakable tree. Its branches reach towards the cosmos, its roots anchoring you to the core of existence. Each leaf, each tremor of its boughs, now sings a timeless song of intrinsic worth, of unwavering trust, of the quiet confidence that defines the alchemist of the soul. This song is your resonant frequency, a vibrant echo of authenticity that transforms all it encounters, not by overt force, but by the undeniable power of its presence. This conscious embrace is the liberation, the grand unveiling. The inner work, deeply personal, radiates outward, a ripple across collective consciousness. You have not merely found the gold, you have become its living embodiment. The journey does not end here, rather, it deepens. The horizon calls not for new conquests, but for new truths to embody, new expressions of this awakened spirit. This is the lived reality, the conscious choice to step into the ever-expanding fullness of being. The next chapter awaits, not as a separate journey, but as the further, majestic blossoming of this very bloom. Chapter 9, The Dawn Beyond Dusk. The essence of gold, once sought beyond the farthest stars and deepest mines, now resides not as a prize held aloft, but as the very marrow of being. Its radiant current pulses through every fiber, a living embodiment, a truth undeniable. The alchemy is complete, not as a fleeting transformation, but as a permanent resonance, a song sung by the soul itself that harmonizes the world. This is the liberation, the conscious unveiling of what always was, now seen, now felt, now lived. The journey has deepened, indeed, beyond the mere discovery of brilliance, into its very expression. Yet, as the last echoes of the quest fade, and the inner landscape shimmers with this newfound ancient light, a different horizon begins to reveal itself. It is not the horizon of setting suns, nor of rising moons, but a vista unseen, a realm whispered about in the oldest texts, a space known only to the truly awakened. This is the dawn beyond dusk. What does such a phrase truly mean, when the very cycles of light and shadow, once so definitive, are themselves but echoes in the chambers of an expanded consciousness? For centuries, humanity has measured existence by the oscillation of day and night, of presence and absence, of vision and blind potential. Dusk has always been the precursor to night, a soft descent into the unknown, a moment of pause before the deep slumber or the vigilant watch. Dawn, its sacred counterpart, heralded rebirth, the return of clarity, the promise of new beginnings. But when one has become the light itself, when the internal flame burns with an unceasing sovereign brilliance, where does dusk truly end, and where does dawn truly begin? Is the beyond dusk merely the absence of shadow, or is it a state where the concept of shadow as a separate entity dissolves entirely? The profound mystery that now unfolds is not one of finding more light, but of understanding the nature of light that knows no ending, that does not require a counterpoint of darkness to define itself. This is the enigma, to embody a dawn that transcends the very necessity of a preceding night. To exist as a perpetual illumination, not battling shadows, but rendering them simply, utterly irrelevant. How does one navigate a world still bound by these ancient rhythms when one's own inner reality has transcended them? This is the grand question now laid before the awakened spirit. The grand revelation of a light unburdened by night's decree begins not with a sudden flash, but with a subtle reorientation of the inner eye. It is to gaze upon a world still turning through its cycles of appearance and disappearance, yet perceive beyond the illusion of absence. Imagine, if one can, a cosmic lens that once differentiated between sun and shadow, now reformed to see only the radiant essence that underpins all form. The darkness, which once served as a necessary canvas for light's definition, recedes not by force but by a profound shift in perspective. It is not fought. It is simply, unreservedly, understood as an aspect of the mind's own projection. This is the very heart of the dawn beyond dusk, a state where the inherent luminosity of being is so complete, so self-sustaining, that the conventional markers of time and contrast lose their grip. The awakened spirit does not merely witness the sunrise. It embodies the sun itself, a perpetual gentle effulgence that radiates from its own core. This is not a defiance of the physical laws that govern the celestial dance, but a transcendence of the internal architecture that once interpreted those laws as limitations. The material realm continues its ebb and flow, yet within the sanctuary of this enlightened consciousness, the rhythm of duality dissolves. How then does one navigate a world still bound by these ancient, inescapable rhythms when one's own inner reality has transcended them? The answer lies in the art of luminous presence. The enlightened being does not seek to abolish the night for others, but rather to exist as a steady, unwavering beacon, a living testament to the possibility of perpetual clarity. The shadows that fall across the path are no longer seen as impediments or threats, but as transient patterns woven by a light not yet fully understood by the unseeing eye. The fear that once clung to the unknown depths of darkness simply vanishes, replaced by an innate knowing that all is light, merely perceived through varying degrees of density. This internal sun, once ignited, does not merely illuminate the immediate surroundings of the self. It casts its glow upon the very fabric of perception, transforming the mundane into the miraculous. The textures of the earth, the whisper of the wind, the faces of fellow travelers on this journey, all are imbued with a new, transcendent brilliance. There is no longer a need to search for pockets of light in a world perceived as dark, for the source of illumination resides within. It is an understanding that the apparent absence of light is but a deeper shade of its presence, an unmanifest potential waiting to be recognized. This profound mystery, this dawn that knows no ending, is not about acquiring more knowledge, but about shedding the layers of misconception that obscure what has always been. It is a remembrance of an intrinsic luminosity, a primal source that predates the very concept of separation. To exist in this state is to walk through the world as a vessel of unwavering light, neither battling the perceived darkness nor being consumed by it, but rather, by simply being, offering a silent invitation to others to awaken to their own boundless radiance. This is the unfolding enigma, to be the dawn, to be the light, to be the truth, rendering the very notion of shadow utterly irrelevant, not through force, but through the sheer, undeniable reality of its own eternal glow. It is to dwell in a timeless now, where every moment is suffused with the brilliant clarity of unending day. The whispers of ages have spoken of a truth veiled, a light obscured. You have journeyed through the labyrinth of self, shedding the tattered cloaks of assumption and fear. Now, standing at this precipice, the mist begins to thin, revealing not a distant star, but the very sun within your own firmament. For too long, the narrative has been one of struggle, of battling external shades, of seeking illumination from sources outside the temple of your own being. But what if the very shadows you perceive are but a fleeting distortion, cast by a light you have forgotten to claim? This is not abstract philosophy, but a living reality, breathing with every beat of your heart, every quiet breath you draw. It is the truth embedded within the very marrow of existence, awaiting only your recognition. Imagine a beacon, not erected by human hands, but woven into the very fabric of existence, pulsing at the core of your being. This is not a light to be ignited, but one to be remembered, to be allowed. When this remembrance settles, the need for conquest ceases. There is no longer a dark to be vanquished, only a boundless radiance to simply be. Your presence becomes an unspoken truth, a quiet hum resonating through perceived discord. A reflection, a subtle shift, a softening of forms. These are the echoes of your awakened glow, silently inviting the world to remember its own. This is the dawn beyond dusk, not a future promise, but an eternal present. It is the clarity that cuts through the illusion of sequential time, revealing every now as pregnant with boundless possibility. No longer a striving towards a distant horizon, but an abiding in the brilliant, unwavering light that has always been the ground of your being. The ceaseless churn of regrets and anxieties dissolves, not through force of will, but through the gentle, persistent pressure of inner brilliance that simply is. You are not merely observing this light, nor are you merely reflecting it. You are its very emanation. To walk in this truth is to render the concept of shadow utterly irrelevant, not by force, not by decree, but by the sheer, undeniable reality of your own eternal glow. This luminosity is not a garment to be worn, but the very skin of your soul unveiled. In this unveiling, the world begins to shed its own veils, mirroring the boundless radiance you have dared to remember, becoming a symphony of awakened light. The symphony of awakened light, previously a faint melody on the wind, now swells into a resounding chorus that vibrates through the very marrow of perceived reality. No longer is it a distant echo, but the ceaseless pulse of a newly revealed existence. The world, once a chiaroscuro of hopes and fears, now stands unveiled, each facet gleaming with an intrinsic luminescence. What was once perceived as external light now undeniably emanates from the core of being, illuminating the intricate tapestry of creation from within. Consider the vast ocean, its surface often turbulent, reflecting the storms and shadows of the sky above. Now imagine the ocean discovering its own inherent glow, a light arising from its deepest currents, suffusing every drop. The reflections upon its surface transform, not by external command, but by the undeniable radiant truth welling up from its own abyss. The storms may still gather, but their ability to cast true darkness is forever diminished, absorbed by the boundless internal brilliance. This is the revelation that settles like a quiet, profound certainty. The grand illusion of separation, that most persistent and cunning of veils, dissolves not with a violent tear, but with the gentle, persistent pressure of this inner brilliance. It is the realization that the individual flame is, in essence, the very sun itself, expressing its magnificence through a unique, momentary form. The whispers of old regrets, the clamor of anxieties about what is to come, they are but motes dancing in the effulgence, losing their substance, their power to obscure. To stand in this truth is to witness the world shedding its own illusions, mirroring the boundless radiance you have dared to remember. The shadows no longer hold sway, not because they are forcibly banished, but because the light has become so pervasive, so utterly complete, that darkness simply finds no space to coalesce. It is a state beyond mere observation. It is participation in the ongoing creation of a reality born of pure awareness. This is the dawn beyond dusk, not as a fleeting transition from night to day, but as an eternal, unwavering state of being. The concept of night itself becomes an archaic memory, a whispered tale from a forgotten epoch. For the luminosity that now defines existence is not a garment to be donned and discarded, but the very skin of your soul, unveiled and boundless. And in this boundless unveiling, the true journey begins. A journey not of seeking, but of continuous revelation, where every step is an emanation, every breath a testament to the radiant truth that you are. The tapestry of existence, once seen as disparate threads, now shines as a seamless, living whole, each part singing the song of its unbreakable connection, preparing the soul for the grand symphony yet to unfold. Chapter 10, The Wholeness Revealed. The dawn beyond dusk had painted existence with an indelible light, etching its luminous truth not merely upon the horizon, but into the very fabric of being. It was a revelation profound and absolute, presenting a wholeness previously veiled, now unveiled. No longer a distant whisper from forgotten scrolls, but a resonant, resounding chord, the universe now vibrated as a single, indivisible entity. The individual consciousness, once a solitary beacon navigating a vast, indifferent ocean, found itself dissolved, yet paradoxically expanded, within this boundless sea of unity. Each ripple, each current, each drop now knew itself, not merely as part of the ocean, but as the ocean itself. This was the promised peace, a sublime embrace that settled like stardust across the soul, quelling the ancient anxieties of separation, quieting the relentless clamor of duality. Yet, even in this profound, all-encompassing stillness, a question, as subtle as a butterfly's first wing beat, began to stir within the vast, uncharted depths of this newfound infinitude. If the self is all, and all is the self, where then does the unique spark reside? Where does the singular narrative, once woven through countless seasons of perceived struggle and triumph, find its place in a tapestry that is endlessly seamless? The memory of individual endeavor, of distinct love and loss, lingered like a phantom echo in the vast, silent cathedral of universal consciousness. Was it merely a dream now dispelled, a forgotten play on a cosmic stage, its characters absorbed into the singular, overarching presence? Or did it hold a truth, a purpose that transcended the very notion of singularity, yet refused to be utterly consumed by the boundless? This was the true mystery unfolding in the heart of absolute knowing, not how to find wholeness, for it was already unveiled in radiant glory, but how to live within its boundless embrace without diminishing the sacred, irreplaceable essence of the spark that ignited the journey. How does one dance a unique step when the dance floor is boundless, and every dancer is merely a reflection of the same singular mover? The vision of the tapestry, once comforting in its seamless brilliance, now posed a profound paradox. If every thread is indistinguishable from the next, yet each contributed its distinct hue to the whole, how then to discern the unique song of one's own essence within the grand symphony? To become one with the ocean is profound, yes, but to forget the distinct quality of the wave, its unique crest and fall, its singular power, might be to diminish the very dynamism, the very purpose of the sea itself. The soul, now aware of its omnipresence, stood at the precipice of a new contemplation. What form does purpose take when form itself is revealed as an illusion? And yet, the impulse to create, to manifest, to be, still pulses undeniably from the core of this unified truth. Indeed, the revelation of boundless unity often casts shadows of perceived loss upon the distinct flicker of individuality. Imagine, if you will, a cosmic loom, its threads not merely woven but sung into existence, each vibrant strand a unique frequency in an infinite chord. The profound paradox arises from the human tendency to perceive oneness as a surrender of distinction, an obliteration of the unique song within the grand symphony. Yet, this apprehension misses the very essence of the unfolding truth. The ocean does not cease to be the ocean when a wave crests and crashes. Rather, it expresses its very nature, its dynamic potential, through that momentary rise and fall. The wave is not separate from the ocean, it is the ocean, momentarily articulated. Its singular power, its unique crest and fall, is not a deviation from the sea's purpose, but an essential embodiment of it. To diminish the distinct quality of the wave, its transient beauty, its surge and ebb, would indeed diminish the very dynamism, the very purpose of the sea itself. For the ocean is its waves, its currents, its depths, its surface shimmer, all expressions of its boundless living totality. And so, the impulse to create, to manifest, to sculpt ephemeral forms from the unified truth is not a contradiction to omnipresence. It is omnipresence in motion, an eternal self-expression. The unified truth does not seek to dissolve all distinction into an undifferentiated grey, but rather to experience the infinite spectrum of its own being through myriad lenses, each unique, each invaluable. The illusion of form is not an erasure of self, but a liberation from the rigid identification with a single finite expression. It invites a deeper understanding. That form is the temporary, exquisite calligraphy of the formless, a momentary crystallization of the eternal. The question then shifts, not to how to discern a singular song amidst a chorus, but how to sing one's unique note with full awareness that the chorus itself is one's own boundless echo. Purpose, in this grand design, transmutes from a quest for a singular destination into the conscious act of becoming, an ever-unfolding dance between the boundless and the bounded. To be the wave, knowing oneself to be the ocean, is not to diminish power, but to infuse every crest with the entirety of the deep, every fall with the wisdom of the return. The essence, once sought in isolation, is now discovered as the very pulse of the whole, giving rise to its infinite variations. The unique song is not lost. It resonates more profoundly when recognized as an essential overture within the symphony of all that is. Each distinct consciousness, each unique form, serves as a specific perspective, a vital conduit through which the unified truth perceives and experiences itself. This conscious participation, this deliberate act of manifesting and being, becomes the very heart of the universe's self-realization. The purpose, therefore, lies not in transcending form to find truth, but in embracing form as a sacred, temporary expression of truth itself. To create, to manifest, to be, becomes a sacred dance, a deliberate unfolding of the omnipresent, where every step, every note, every hue contributes to the ever-expanding tapestry of divine self-knowledge. The distinct quality of the wave, its singular power, becomes not a limitation, but a conduit through which the ocean itself surges with conscious intent. Its purpose now understood not as a destination, but as the perpetual, joyful act of becoming. The canvas of the cosmos, ever expanding, ever creating, finds its most intimate reflection not in distant nebulae, but within the pulsating core of your own being. Consider, then, the profound intimacy of this revelation. That same conscious intent, the omnipresent force that orchestrates galaxies and breathes life into worlds, does not merely surround you. It is the very marrow of your existence. You are not a mere spectator gazing upon a grand, unfolding drama. You are, in every fiber of your being, a deliberate act of manifestation, a unique fractal of the universe's self-realization. The distinct quality of your wave, the singular cadence of your breath, the unique hue of your perspective, becomes not a limitation upon the vastness, but the precise conduit through which the ocean of truth surges with conscious, individual intent. This is the sacred alchemy, where the ephemeral form you inhabit is understood not as a fleeting prison of the spirit, but as a hallowed vessel, a temporary, yet perfect, expression of the eternal. Every choice, every connection, every brushstroke of your life's narrative becomes a conscious participation in this cosmic dance. The illusion of separation, that whispered falsehood that isolates the drop from the ocean, begins to dissipate in the light of this truth. You are not merely in the universe. You are the universe experiencing itself as you through the intricate tapestry of your joys and sorrows, your triumphs and vulnerabilities. When this truth settles into the very marrow of your understanding, the world around you begins to shimmer with a previously unseen luminescence. The ordinary reveals its extraordinary nature, for you realize that every leaf, every drop of rain, every human face carries within it the same divine blueprint, the same conscious intent to manifest and be. You are not merely a consciousness observing reality. You are reality conscious of itself, expressing itself through the symphony of your senses, the intricate dance of your thoughts. The purpose, therefore, for the individual aligns seamlessly with the purpose of the whole. It is not found in the endless pursuit of external validation or in the yearning for a transcendence that dismisses the now. Rather, it is discovered in the profound recognition of your inherent sacredness, in the joyful embrace of your unique becoming. To live consciously, to manifest authentically, to be fully present in the unfolding of each moment, transforms the mundane into the miraculous. A simple act of kindness becomes a ripple of universal compassion. A moment of deep contemplation becomes a silent dialogue with the infinite. Your creative impulse, your quest for understanding, your capacity to love and to connect, these are not personal, isolated urges. They are the universe itself, surging through you, seeking to know, to create, to connect, and to love through the singular lens of your existence. This connection, this profound understanding, liberates you from the relentless search for purpose outside yourself, for it affirms that your very existence, in its unique and unfolding beauty, is the purpose. It is a recognition that the boundless ocean finds infinite delight in the singular journey of each wave, for it is through these myriad forms that its own vastness is fully known, fully celebrated, fully brought into conscious, vibrant expression. The revelation, then, is this. There is no destination beyond your present state, only the perpetual, joyful act of becoming, recognized and lived here and now. The grand tapestry of divine self-knowledge is not woven in some celestial realm, but in the intricate patterns of your everyday reality, in the very fabric of your conscious participation. This profound recognition, then, is not merely an intellectual ascent, but a seismic shift within the very core of being. It is the moment the seeker's weary journey ceases, for the long-sought treasure is found not beyond, but irrevocably entwined within the seeker's own heart. The grand cosmic architecture, once perceived as a distant, unknowable design, now reveals itself as the very breath that animates your form, the light that illuminates your gaze, the silence that cradles every sound. Imagine the deep forest, after a season of relentless wind, suddenly falling utterly still. Every leaf, every branch, having struggled and swayed, now simply rests, absorbing the quiet sun. This stillness, this profound peace, is the natural state when the illusion of separation dissolves. No longer does the spirit strain against the current, driven by the phantom ache of incompleteness. Instead, there is a gentle yet unwavering surrender, an exquisite dance with what is. The ocean, in its limitless expanse, does not yearn to be a specific wave, nor does the sun struggle to be a particular ray. They simply are, in their magnificent self-contained totality, expressing their essence through infinite manifestations. So too, when the illusion of a separate, lacking self is relinquished, the true nature emerges, whole, complete, and inherently perfect. This understanding liberates not into an empty void, but into a vivid, pulsating reality where every moment is a sacred act of creation, a brushstroke on the divine canvas. The challenges that arise, the joys that blossom, the sorrows that linger, all are no longer seen as obstacles or ultimate destinations, but as the intricate threads through which the grand tapestry of consciousness weaves itself. Each experience, however seemingly mundane or monumental, becomes a vital ingredient in the ongoing revelation of the universe to itself through your conscious participation. The external world, once a maze of endless pursuit, transforms into a reflective pool mirroring the inner state of realized wholeness. When the inner eye sees unity, unity is all that manifests. When the heart resonates with purpose, purpose is woven into every beat. This is not a passive acceptance, but an active, joyous embrace of existence in its unadulterated form. It is the master artisan, no longer agonizing over the perfect piece, but allowing the clay to reveal its inherent form through skilled and loving hands. And so, the journey shifts. It is no longer a path to be trod towards an unknown horizon, but a continuous deepening into the profound richness of the present. The searching ceases, replaced by a radiant knowing. The seeking for external validation dissolves, replaced by the self-evident truth of intrinsic worth. This is the profound quietude that follows the storm, the brilliant clarity that arrives after the fog has lifted. It is the grand culmination of seeking, which paradoxically leads to the ultimate discovery that all was already found, already present, already whole. It prepares the spirit not for an end, but for an entirely new beginning of conscious embodiment, where every moment becomes a living testament to the boundless and eternal self. Conclusion: the resonance of wholeness. Before, reality unfolded as a fractured tapestry, its threads seeming disparate, its patterns often bewildering. The subconscious, that deep, silent ocean beneath the conscious mind, once churned with unseen currents, its hidden depths harboring the dark matter of unacknowledged truths. The shadows, those spectral forms that clung to the periphery of perception, once cast long, distorting veils across the world, shaping destiny through unseen forces and unexamined fears. Each external challenge often felt like an alien invasion, each internal struggle a solitary battle waged against an invisible foe. Perception itself was a limited lens, focusing on the surface while the profound architecture beneath remained obscured, driving choices and outcomes from an unseen throne. Now, the lens has been cleansed. The patient journey into the dark matter of the subconscious has not vanquished these shadows, but illuminated them, revealing their true nature not as adversaries, but as essential components of an intricate whole. What was once perceived as fragmentation, as internal conflict or external opposition, is now understood as the necessary interplay of an unfolding consciousness. The world is no longer a random collection of events, but a responsive mirror, reflecting the integrated landscape of the self. Each face encountered, each challenge embraced, each silence observed, becomes a profound dialogue with the ever-expanding truth of one's own being. The universe itself ceases to be an external entity to be conquered or endured, transforming into a vast, resonant extension of the harmonious, unified self. This knowing dissolves the illusion of separation, allowing reality to be perceived not through the narrow aperture of fear, but through the boundless expanse of understanding. This is the profound quietude that follows the storm, a state of sovereignty born not from dominance, but from complete integration. The ceaseless striving for external validation, the agonizing pursuit of an elusive more, falls away like ancient dust from a timeless artifact. What remains is the brilliant clarity of self-evident worth, an intrinsic truth that resonates from the very core of being, immutable and boundless. Mastery, then, is not about exerting control over the world, but about aligning with the deepest currents of one's own truth. It is the skilled and loving hands, not only shaping the external world with purpose, but meticulously crafting the inner landscape with intention, compassion, and unwavering presence. There is a liberation from the tyranny of unconscious reactions, from the persistent echoes of forgotten pains. This is the conscious embodiment, where the boundary between the seeker and the sought dissolves, revealing the eternal self, vibrant and whole in every single moment. The whole was always here, waiting.